Hello guys, in today's video, which is my first video on this new channel, I will be going through all the Squid Game characters from seasons 1 to 3 and putting them into a tier list that we have here. So this is all mainly the most important characters. I have S tier to D tier, which you can argue that the D tier can be D to F tier, so those are characters who I didn't really like, and then obviously, as you know, as it goes up to S tier, those are the characters that I do like. Three things that I'll be ranking them on: one is just their character development, whether I liked it or not, or whether it was present. Two, it could just be my personal opinion of like how I like their personality or something that they did. And three will be the screen time. So players or characters with less screen time will probably be lower on my list just because I didn't have a chance to connect with them. But again, this is all my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with me. I'm interested to see if you guys agree or disagree with anything that I said when giving quick descriptions of why I rated the characters in this tier list. And I'd also be interested to see what you guys think of who's the best characters, in your opinion, who's the worst. So I'll start in the D tier with the very last person, and I'll go up all the way till there's only one character left, and that'll be my favorite character. So for starters, we are new to have the baby as D tier last character. So I really just did not like the entire idea of the baby storyline. I just feel like they could have done like anything else really, and it would have been a better ending than this. Just the fact that as soon as the baby became a player and as soon as it was born, we kind of knew that it was going to survive, because Squid Game would probably be the show that would kill off a baby. But I mean, the fact that they didn't do that just shows that no matter what show or movie, if there's a baby involved, that baby is going to survive. So it just felt like kind of a cop out, and I wish they did something better. Especially Gi-hoon winning again. I think that would be the most logical thing. Or even Gi-hoon sacrificing himself so someone like Myung-gi or Jun-hee could have won with the baby. But I just didn't like how some characters revolved around it. I feel like it took a lot away from Jun-hee and her personality as a character herself without the baby. So yeah, overall, I just didn't really like the entire storyline and just the idea behind the baby. And I mean, yeah, it was pretty lame. But next, we're gonna have the VIPs. So I'm just counting the VIPs from seasons 1 and then season 3. So I think it's just the fact that seasons 2 and 3, the VIPs, they were honestly, it was just terrible writing. I think for them, they had horrible lines. Their line deliveries weren't great. They felt more like spoiled brats, spoiled rich kids, rather than season 1, where they actually had some power and they felt like the most powerful people on earth or whatever, who were just corrupt and whatnot. But so I think season 1, yes, the characters were better, but other than that, I mean, you're just horrible people funding like a horrible organization. And that's what it really boils down to, is the fact that like year after year, they continue to watch these players get eliminated, and it's just for pleasure for them. So pretty awful people. And yeah, I just wasn't a big fan of that. So next, we're going to have the triangle guard. So I think I forgot their numbers. I don't know, I think it's 16 and 18, but or yeah, really, this is just his lack of screen time. I feel like he didn't really do much in season 2. He had a conflict with No, but I feel like he's kind of like the second triangle guard compared to the other guy. And in season 3, he was there for like 2 minutes or whatever when she got down to the organ room, and then he just got cooked instantly. So yeah, not much screen time, and he, again, horrible person. So that's why he's so low. And I'm gonna put his partner, I think, either 16 or 18 again. I don't know. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just, he's like a bit above the other guy just because he had a little more screen time, a little more like talking. But he's also just as horrible of a person. I think even worse than Noel, the creepy comments and remarks he made to her about seeing each other in the real world. And just the fact that, they're running this organization and they have to like, injure her and whatnot and say some rude things to her just so that they can get even wealthier. So they're no better than the players, like the O voters, who continue to play the games for greed. So yeah, not a big fan of either of the two of them, and they didn't have as much screen time. So yeah. Next, we're gonna have the three string of finalists. So player 336, player 353, and player 203. So I didn't really like the idea of random finalists in, the finale of Squid Game Season 3. I just feel like it'd been a lot better if we had some main characters and they had to, make the difficult decisions because we love all of them. But once I saw that all these guys made it, I'm like, okay, they die. If they die, they die. I don't really care. In terms of actually ranking them, Player 336, I don't know. I just never really liked him. I thought he was like one of the weakest finalists in terms of just like his character and whatnot. Player 353, he was a little more special. He was a bit smarter and whatnot, but still not very interesting. The Player 203, I think he had the most to do out of all of them. He's kind of reckless and whatnot, but all in all, I wish we had some more finalists who were main characters rather than just some randoms who we knew were just going to be casualties in the final game. So it was kind of pointless for that. Again, the ending kind of annoyed me, but I can get into that in a different video if you guys would like that. So, but I'm not going to do that here. Next, we have the Glassmaker from Season 1. So, again, this is really just like a lack of screen time. He was in the glass bridge thing for like 5 minutes or whatever. We, figured out who he was, and then again 5 minutes later he just died. I do think he got snubbed out of being like a finalist because they turned off the lights and then Songwoo pushed him. But he served his purpose. He helped the trio get across for the most part, and then yep, he died. So he served his, you know, or his entire arc was just surrounded around the glass bridge, and he used his skills to his advantage. So that's why he's a bit higher than some of these other characters in the D tier. Next we have Oh Ilnom, player 001. So for me, I think he would have been like a high B tier character had he not turned out to be evil. I think that when he died, I thought that was really, really sad. And I really connected with him, and obviously Gi-hoon connected with him a lot. So it was pretty disappointing because while he was an old man, there may have been some things where he's like, just annoying just based off how old he was. He was still a sweet, like, caring guy. But once we realized that he was the evil mastermind, and I just think that just broke Gi-hoon even more. It just made him like a complete monster, and the fact that he created the games just to please, the VIPs, I thought that was horrible, and so that immediately kicked him down to the D tier. I get it, like why he did it, and if I was rating them based off like the deeper meaning or whatever, sure he'd be higher. But again, personality, he's a horrible person, and that's why he's low on this list for me. Next, we got player 226. So here he is. This is just, I feel like he was like, his character could be defined as like more than a side character. So, he had a name, he like influenced the plot a little bit, but other than that, like he wasn't like a main character. He was just player 100's friend, which they did have a decent friendship, but then he kind of like all of a sudden in season 3 that just went out the window in the 4th game, and then he just kind of got cooked by Hyunju despite having the upper hand with a knife. So, I thought he was interesting for the time that he was in there, but again, just an greedy O voter who kept pushing to like continue the games, and just not a great person. So that's why I have him in the D tier. And then lastly, at the top of the D tier, we have Seon Yo, the shaman lady, player 44. So I think she did have some funny moments in season 2, which were also kind of annoying. And in season 3, the way that she ran away from Namgyu and Myungi by backing out of the door, letting her followers die, I thought that was funny. But other than that, she was pretty annoying. Her foreshadowing in season 2, especially rewatching season 2, which is kind of annoying because it was like a subtle reminder when I rewatched season 3 that all these people were going to die exactly how she said it was. So that kind of deteriorates from her entire personality and character. Also, her personality is just she's just very weird and mystical, and she's the reason why the games continued because she influenced voters to vote O. So that was pretty annoying. But yep, she's in the D tier, and that's gonna wrap up the D tier for us. So let's get on to the C tier. So the C tier, I'm gonna put the 2 kids. We're gonna have, Joel, and then the baby of player 246, or the daughter. It's really just the fact that they're kind of just family members of characters in the game, so we don't really see them a lot. I do like the fact that both of them did have a happy ending, sort of like the daughter got better and Chol was able to meet his mother, so that was kind of sweet. But they didn't really talk a lot, and they didn't really influence the plot. I mean, I guess they did influence Noel's decisions, especially the mother, and Gi-hun obviously protected him. So I guess you could say that. But in terms of their actual character doing something, they didn't really do a lot. But they're still better than all these people. So that's why I have them up there. Next, we have the other random finalist, player 39. So, what separates him from the other three finalists is really just the fact that he did, like, have some sort of defiance. Like, he did kill himself rather than just being like a sacrifice, which, I think that also kind of ruined him, like, or dropped his ranking for me just because I was kind of pissed off that he died, 'cause then I knew that Myungi and Gi-hun, one of them was definitely going to die. So I was kind of mad about that. But, it was, a good act of courage. And just the fact that he got beat up. The fact that also he voted X all three times in the second season and he survived the night, only voting O to, you know, not die and because he was influenced and peer pressured. I thought that was just interesting that, an ex voter who still survived. I thought that was pretty impressive. But other than that, yeah, just another random finalist. And again, I just wasn't a big fan of the whole random finalist thing. Next, we've got the two mothers. So we're new Gi-hun's mother and then Song-woo's mother. So both sweet ladies. I think that Song-woo's mother is a bit higher just because she took care of Chol and whatnot, and she's still holding out for hope that Song-woo's going to come back, which he isn't, and it sucks for Gi-hun that he has to hide that from her. But so it's still nice that she tries to have like a cheerful, spirit to her, despite the fact that she probably knows that she won't see Song-woo again, even though she's holding out hope. And then Gi-hun's mother is just a little bit lower because we don't see her as much, but the fact that she still cares for Gi-hun despite him being a annoying brat in season one at the start, and then the fact that she still kept trying to work and then eventually died, I thought that was a pretty sad death at the end of season one, even like breaking Gi-hun further. So, but yeah, other like all in all, it didn't have a lot of screen time, but the scenes that they were in, they definitely had great personalities. Just being like very protective, sweet mothers. Next, we're gonna have Captain Park in the C chair. So honestly, I really liked his character for the first couple episodes of season two, and I was kind of disappointed that he turned out to be evil. But I think as the episodes went on, you could definitely tell. It's really just the fact that every time he was on screen in season three, it kind of annoyed me how we all knew that he turned out to be evil and that he was probably working for, Inho and whatnot. But the fact that it took them so long to realize that he was an imposter, and that just kind of annoyed me because it was like a nagging pain every time I saw him. I'm just like, shoot him or kill him, but they never did it. So, but in the earlier episodes, he did seem like a helpful guy. He did seem, just like a nice old, fisher. So I think that's the reason why he's a bit above. But if we were just taking season three into account, I'd probably have him in the D tier. Next, we have player 100, Im Jong-bae. So he's definitely a very political person. I think that, you could tell definitely trying to vote or convince the voters to pick O. And then just his, like, debating in season three in the finale, I don't think anyone wanted to see him get there, which to be honest, I didn't really want him there either. I thought he was kind of annoying at points, but he really did try and reason with Gi-hun and Youngie, and I thought that was impressive. His greed definitely did drive him over the edge, but he was so close. I mean, he would have paid off his debt, and that would have been that. But obviously, he did die, which I was glad that he died. But he did have some funny moments, which I did enjoy. So that's why I have him up there in the C tier. Next, we've got the Black Square mask guard dude. So in season two, he didn't really do a lot. For me, at least, I didn't really find his character that interesting. I thought he was just, another guy who's gonna die from people figuring out that they were doing some operating room. But I really liked him in season three, what he did to try and, counteract Noel's, decisions and her entire plan to help 246. Their confrontation I thought was nice, and if he didn't monologue, he definitely would have killed her. So I think that kind of annoyed me, the fact that he probably should have known that the gun was still in the elevator and he let her crawl to the elevator. That was kind of stupid of him. But yeah, just a pretty average character for me. But season three, probably one of the only characters who I like them better in season three than season two. So yeah, so just a pretty average character after all. Next two picks may be a little bit controversial, but I'm gonna go with Young Mi first. So I really just I didn't care for her at all. There are going to be some people who did like her and whatnot, and that's great. They can have their opinion. I was one who did not like her. I didn't like her character, her personality. She had limited character development. I like when she died. I really didn't care at all. I was not affected at all. And then I always thought she was just like a little bit annoying, just there, to further improve Hyunju's development and build Hyunju's character. So yeah, I feel like she was kind of like a side character who happened to hang out with the other main characters, which is why, she's up here, but, I can't rank her any higher. So the next person on here will be Semi. So similar with Young Mi, they both died like in season 2, showing that even the directors and producers didn't think that they had enough character development or purpose to be in season 3. I think that in terms of like some pros, she did fight against Nongyu, and she did kind of influence some of Minsu's decisions and some foreshadowing. But again, she was really just there for Minsu's character, not so much her own character. I didn't think she had any character development, and she didn't really move the plot along at all. So yeah, I just I know some people are gonna like her, some people are gonna be mad in the comments, but personally, I wasn't a big fan of her, and I feel like she didn't really do much. Next, we're gonna have Gi-hoon's daughter. So I really, I think she was just a sweet daughter to Gi-hoon, despite, like, in the first episode, despite him, not having the best birthday, like, dinner with her and whatnot, she still, like, showed that, she was trying to be sweet, trying to smile and whatnot, even though she didn't really like what Gi-hoon had prepared, because she was, just trying to be nice to her dad, who was obviously going through a lot and whatnot. So I thought that was nice. And the fact that she still, after like 3 years, she still wanted to call her dad and ask if it was him. And then at first she was mad when Inho came to deliver his like jumpsuit or whatnot, but when she found out that that Gi-hoon died, then she was really sad. It really affected her. And I thought that was kind of nice. The fact that like her dad's been gone for so long, and the fact that she still held out hope, kind of like Song Woo's mom, that he would come back. So when she realized that he died, then yeah, then she was like, wow, I'm not going to be able to see him anymore. And so I think that's really what we saw and what affected her. So I really like that. But again, not as much screen time, so I couldn't rank her any higher. Next, we have Player 96. This is entirely boosted by the fact that I really liked his strategy in the jump rope game. The fact that, him and Gi-hoon probably were going to be the last two characters, or I guess if you count the baby. But, I didn't like that strategy. I did, in season 2. It made sense that he wanted to combat and have conflict with the ex-voters after being kicked out of Gi-hoon's group for Junhee. So it made sense that he was a greedy O-voter just like everyone else. But I think that he definitely could have won with Gi-hoon had Gi-hoon not intervened, which I'm glad he did at the end. But, it was a pretty tense moment. And I was, out of all the jump rope scenes, that's probably my favorite just because the rest of the jump rope was kind of lame, in my opinion. But yeah. So, but still kind of a side character, so that's why I don't have him higher. Next, we have Player 212 from Season 1. So, really, it's just like her cons are there, and they're the same as her pros. So, it's just kind of hard to rank her, so I kind of ranked her in the middle. It's really just the fact that, she was kind of funny. She made some, snappy comebacks and whatnot, and she's kind of a goofball. But at the same time, like, all those comments and whatnot were also kind of annoying, and I didn't really like them at times. I did think her death was pretty symbolic of the fact that she leaned back and she felt powerful, recalling back to the tug of war scene and whatnot. So I thought that was impressive and just a great act of like, her development as a character. But that was really it, not much else to be said. She's kind of just there for comedic like effect and whatnot. And yeah, that's why I have her in the C tier. Next, we're gonna have Mr. Kim. So I probably have ranked him higher, but he just didn't have as much screen time. In season 2, I just really liked his friendship with Woo-sok, the officiating the wedding and obviously sacrificing himself for Woo-sok. I thought that entire scene was really great, and it just showed his character that was really kind and whatnot, and he wouldn't snub Woo-sok out despite being a boss. He wasn't greedy like some other people in the show, obviously, that we've seen. And just the fact that he took his own life rather than seeing Woo-sok die, I thought that was just a really great act of friendship. And so, not much to be said about him, but that's why I have him up there. Next 3 picks may be controversial, so just fair warning. But I'd be interested to see if you guys think my opinion is wrong about them. But first, we're going to have Junhee. So, again, it's just that the baby, like, that's the only thing that she, like, offered to the table. In season two, she didn't really talk with anyone besides Myungi unless they were, like, unless they asked her a question or they were talking to her and then she just responded. She didn't have, she didn't, like, have like, her own original thought or idea to contribute, you know? She was kind of just there, just getting helped by everybody. The only reason why I liked her is because of her relationship with Myungi and that just dynamic and how it shifted, you know. And then once the baby was born, all of a sudden she suddenly found her voice and started monologuing to Gihoon and whatnot. I didn't like the way that she died, you know. It's just also kind of annoying the fact that we knew that the jump rope game was coming up, and once we saw her ankle get snapped, we knew that she was going to die. So just a pretty complicated character, and I know they couldn't do the best job of it trying to kill her off, but had the baby be protected. So kind of threw some shade onto Junhee, and she didn't really. I don't know. I was kind of disappointed in the way that her character ended up being in season three and how she like acted. But yeah. Other than that, just she didn't really do much, and I get it, she was pregnant, but I still wasn't a big fan of that. Next, controversial character, we're now Daeho. So this is literally entirely because of season two is the only reason why he's up in the C tier. I just think that I think that his relationship with Jungbae was really nice, his, positive attitude and whatnot. And even at the rebellion, I wasn't that mad at him because I thought he had PTSD at the time. But season three just kind of ruined it, just flatlined his character development, just became like someone to kill off for Gihoon, showing that Gihoon could kill somebody, and just the fact that all his potential, all his backstory that he could have dove into was all just wasted in like one little like sentence or 1 minute. And then just the fact that he wasn't actually like a marine, like in combat training or whatever, I just thought, that was kind of disappointing, and it makes me kind of hate him in the rebellion because like watching it back. So yeah. And then we have Ji Young, so from season one. This is just like I really did like her as a character. I thought she was kind of Sabiok, and their friendship was really great. I liked her sacrifice. It's really just the fact that we didn't really see her a lot, and she didn't have a lot of screen time. And then it just she didn't really have character development like some of these other characters. She was just there for like Sabiok's like morality and showing that Sabiok could care and like could connect with someone. But other than that, again, limited screen time, and I didn't really have much of a connection with her, like watching the show. And then at the top of the C tier, kind of an odd pick, but we have the Doctor from season one. So I don't know. I think just watching season one, his entire subplot of helping the organ donors, I thought that was really interesting. And his entire like death scene, the way they led up to it and whatnot, was pretty cool. And like I was really scared for him, and it could just like you could just imagine being in his situation, how scared he must have been. So that really was just great, like camera and edit like quality and whatnot. But I feel like he didn't really do much besides obviously he had the hints in his food or whatnot. So and then he was able to pick a strong team, which made sense, and he did use his you know advantages to his advantage. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but he took the hints and he was able to win because of those hints. So that was a great thing to do. So he was kind of smart, again, was a doctor, so he did help out, but again, he just wasn't as important as some of these other main characters, and so that's why he's in the C tier. Bottom of the B tier, we're gonna have player 7, Youngsik. So I think Youngsik was just kind of there. Like I think it makes sense for his character, and how he died. He didn't like his in season two. His mom said that he never beat anyone up, and he never like laid a finger on anyone. So it made sense that when he got the knife and whatnot, he wasn't able to find anyone. Just the fact that his mom killed him, I thought that was a pretty impactful moment, and it was kind of sad, just a sad scene seeing him die. In terms of character development, I don't think he had much, but I thought some of the scenes in season two with his mom were funny, especially when they first met. And then his when he was started crying in the mingle when he saw that his mom was alive, and he was so sad that he thought that he left her and, like, to die. So I thought that was a pretty impactful scene, and I really loved that scene. So yeah, like, just above average character, and I really like that about him. So next we have Minsu. So Minsu, for me, I didn't like how he took the drugs and that was his kind of his purpose in season 3. I didn't like how he was able to get to the finals, and showing that someone who's like afraid and seems like a weak player could definitely make it there. I think out of everyone, he was definitely the most realistic player. Like, if you were in the games, I think that's how most of us would act, including myself. You know, I did think he did truly care for Simi, and their relationship was good, and then his conflict with Namgyu, the way that he voted O and Namgyu voted X, relating to Namgyu's quote in season 2, which I'll get into when I talk about Namgyu. I thought that was really nice. And then I didn't like how, he died as the first sacrifice in the finale of Sky Squid Game. I just feel like he could have gone out better, but still the scene was nice. Him reaching out for Simi's hands and having those hallucinations. So, and then the fact that he voted X just showed Gi-hun that there was still some humanity left in the world and not everyone was just focused on greed. So I thought that was cool. Next we have player 246. So I don't think this has anything to do with season 2. Season 2, I thought he was just a pretty average character, probably like C tier. I like how we established the fact that his daughter is like in the hospital with cancer, so it shows why Noel helped him. But just the fact that he listened to everything that Noel said, and obviously she did a lot to protect him. But if like a real person was in that situation, I feel like it would have been very hard for them to listen to everything that she asked of him. So he did a really great job of pretending to be dead and trying to pretend like blend in with all the other guards. I thought that was impressive, and really, and just the fact that he was able to escape, I thought, and like, one of the only characters who had a good ending at the end of season 3. I really did like that. Even though he didn't get the money, they still got treatment for his daughter. So that was a really great moment, and yeah, overall just pretty great. Next we have Mr. Kim from the boats. So I don't know. I just like this could be like a weird pick because I feel like there's not much to go off of. I just every time he was on screen, I enjoyed watching his character. Thought it was cool that he was a ex special forces. So, and the fact that he was dedicated to helping out Junho, even though he may have not believed that this like island thing was real. And then after one of his men died, the fact that he was kept pushing to try and find it. The entire boat scene and like whole subplot was kind of useless, but the fact that he was the only one that survived Captain Park's attack and ambush. So like I really like that. That shows that he was important enough to be kept alive. And then obviously he helped player 246. And then he was also another one who survived through the end of season 3, and he probably had a good life. So I think that was really nice. But there wasn't much to go off of. This is again probably one of the picks where it's just my personal opinion, and I don't know. I really liked him. So yeah. All right. Next we have Deoksu, player 101. So it just shows like his antagonist role, even though the VIPs are the true antagonist. It just shows how like even the most powerful people seemingly in the games are obviously gonna be a casualty of the games. So obviously when he died, I think that was realistic, and the fact that like if I was in the games, I wouldn't want to move forward either. I wouldn't just mindlessly jump and pray that I would survive. I would try and stay put and think of like make other people go in front of me. So, and I also liked the fact that he used his like strength and to his advantage to like in tug of war and to intimidate others. I thought that was impressive. I thought the marble scene, even though that entire episode was really sad, that was probably one of the only funny moments, which I thought was hilarious the way that he won and cheered and whatnot. So pretty above average character for me. Obviously not A or S tier just due to his antagonist role against Sabiok and Gi-hun, but yeah. Next we have Noel. So again, nothing really for season 2 that I really liked about her. She was just kind of there, kind of being bullied by the organ donor people and organization, but she still watched over 246, which I liked, and she still tried to find her daughter before we were introduced to her being a guard and whatnot. So it shows that she did have a purpose for just being alive and trying to, move throughout the seasons. And then the fact that she didn't kill herself because she heard the baby, in the last game, and the fact that Gi-hun sacrificed himself, I thought that was a pretty special moment. And then she, when it was going on a plane to try and find her daughter, I thought that was really nice. And then just the fact that she helped player 246 survive and reconnect with his daughter, that was a really, really great moment. And I'm glad she had a good ending in season 3. Next on the list, we're gonna have Namgyu. So, I don't know, Namgyu for me, it was really just like in season 2, I liked his friendship with Thanos. I thought they had a really good, great connection. The fact that, he just kind of intimidated Minsu and preyed on his weakness, I thought that was nice. His quote of, all, like, if you seek, or those who seek life shall die, and those who seek death shall live. I thought that was a great foreshadowing for the fact that he voted X and then he ended up dying. He really portrayed, withdrawal well when he realized that he didn't have the pills. He was like a complete mess and whatnot. His teamwork with Myungi in season 3 for hide and seek, I thought that was also pretty fun. He's just a character who really wanted to have friends and had to like latch on to someone else in order to like do well. And when he was alone, he kind of fell apart and was a mess. So that was just really great, like, character portrayal by the actor, and really just great development for his character for someone who was trying to parallel to Deoksu in season 1. Next, we got Junho. So this really has nothing to do with season 3 and not really season 2. I think season 2 he was mid, but he just wasn't like doing much. But this is all because of season 1. Season 1, his entire subplot of being like a guard and trying to like going from a circle guard to like a square mass guard, and then being in the VIP's room, and even being able to meet the front man, which he turned out to be his brother. I thought that was all impressive. The chaos that he brought to the entire season for the organization, that was impressive. Season 2, like I say, he was kind of mid. Didn't really do anything to impress me, but also didn't do anything to annoy me. Season 3 is really where I have the problem of the fact that he wasted all that time just to get to the island, and then he said like one sentence to his brother and then just immediately left. He still did have a good ending with like all the money and the baby, so at least there's that he would have a good life. But yeah, season 3 really brought his rating down for me, and I just didn't really like his character at all, and I feel like it served no purpose in seasons 2 and 3. And then at the top of the B tier, we're gonna have Inho. So season 2, I really enjoyed like watching his character, analyze Gi-hun and how Gi-hun was so morally good, and the fact that he held on to the belief that everyone was great. So Inho's fascination with that was pretty impressive, and then him trying to have conflict with Gi-hun and have opposing viewpoints was good, like really great. In season 3, he still, served his purpose as the front man, catering towards the VIPs. His talk with Gi-hun I thought was kind of lame. Personally, I would have liked to see more, but the fact that, he did show some sort of remorse for Gi-hun's death, the fact that, he went to his daughter's house all the way in America and then took care of the baby for 6 months, I thought that was really impressive. Season 1, he was kind of just the front man, and it was a shocking revelation that, Junho's brother was the front man, but we hadn't really, known much about his character or his, like, development, so that's why it's really season 2 that carried his ranking for me, at least in my opinion, which is why he's at the top of the B tier. At the bottom of the A tier, we're going to have Gunja. So really just a mother to all. She was super sweet to Youngmi, Youngsik, Junhee, and Hyunju, and everyone else. I think that her death was a little bit repetitive to player 69 in season 1, and the way that she hung herself. I wish her death would have been a little bit better, but just the fact that she, gave Gi-hun a new purpose in life to protect Junhee's baby, and just the fact that she tried to help Youngsik and only join the games just so that he could, make money to get out. The fact that she had to kill him basically to protect Junhee, I think that's just great motherly instinct. And then just her acting, I think, was impressive. The way she broke down and whatnot after the 4th game ended, that was just really impressive. So yeah, I mean, she was just a sweet, caring old lady. Even in season 2, she was respectful to Hyunju, even though she didn't understand the whole transgender thing, and she tried to help out Junhee, even though Junhee was pushing her away. So just really amazing all around. Next, we have the salesman. I think this is entirely boosted just from the fact that I rewatched season 2 literally, just last night. Like, I finished up the 7th episode. So, it's really just the fact that I think the way that, he just, like, establishes himself as like a very prominent man and whatnot, with the bread and lottery like episode. I thought that was really impressive. His entire like intimidation factor when Wusok and Mr. Kim played rock paper scissors -1. I thought that was really impressive, and it just showed how much power he held and how much the organization was corrupt. And then when he played Russian roulette with Gi-hun, I thought that was just an incredibly like well done scene. The actor really portrayed the character well, and then just his two different like sides of his faces, the one side being like covered in red and showing his like confidence and whatnot, and then the right side showing blue and showing his like fear or whatnot of dying. I thought that was really impressive. So yeah, completely boosted just by like my rewatch of season 2. But so he may be a little bit lower had I not done that, but because I did, he's up here, and he really did like a lot in the short time that he was given in the short screen time. So next we're gonna have Wusok in the A tier. So I think that he was probably the character who had the best outcome in season 3 in terms of just like after he got out of prison, the fact that he wanted to revitalize the Pink Motel. I thought that was pretty impressive, and just the fact that he wanted to work hard and get his hands dirty to try and make something of it, was impressive. I think the fact that he was able to pick up on, Captain Park's suspicious behavior wasn't like nice, and he did a lot. He did more than Junho in season 3 of figuring out that Captain Park was the like a square guard or whatever. I thought that was impressive. In season 2, I don't think he had much to do in terms of like his development as a character, but really his friendship with Mr. Kim, and then I think he was just a funny character in season 2. He really, I think he boosted up the boat subplot a lot and made it more enjoyable to watch. So next we have Jongbae. So he was, I feel like there's no negatives for him besides the fact that he voted O after the second game, which, a lot of people did in terms of main characters. But he was just a great friend to Gi-hun, and really, once he died, it like completely broke Gi-hun after Gi-hun's already been through so much, and then his best friend dies. But I think his relationship with Gi-hun was great. His relationship with with Daeho was even better. Just the fact that they connected by being Marines, even though Daeho wasn't really. I just thought that was all great. He tried to help out in the rebellion, saying that he was scared, and the fact that he was scared and he still was willing to sacrifice himself just to stick with his friend was really great. And all around, I don't know how you could hate the guy. I thought that he did a lot in season 2, and he was just really helpful, to Junhee and whatnot. His interactions with Inho, I felt like they kind of hated each other without saying it, and I thought that was pretty funny interactions. Next, a pretty controversial pick, but I'm gonna have Thanos. I really no, I'm not one of those people who were like cringe and loving all over him, but I did just like what he brought to season 2. He just made it so much more vibrant and fun. I liked I liked everything that he did in the Mingle game, his goofy comments and dance moves and whatnot, and then even just outside the games, the fact that he had like no thoughts in his mind, he just said stuff just to clip farm and whatnot. And I understand that some people are going to be like, oh, well, he didn't have much character development. He was just there just to be there. And yeah, but again, my opinion, I really enjoyed watching him on my screen. And then when he died, I knew he was going to die, so I wasn't like that shocked or whatever. But, it was a pretty impactful death just in terms of like symbolic and symbolism. The fact that after his death, the rebellion happened, and that was kind of like brutal, and season 3 was brutal, whereas season 2 was definitely a lot more fun. So that his death itself was pretty symbolic, whereas his character, was just a goofy guy. And then at the top of the A tier, we're gonna have Sungwoo, so he could definitely be S tier for me. I think that it's just, he did end up being evil, and he did do stuff that kind of counteracted Gi-hun's whole belief and whatnot, but he was very smart, did whatever it took to survive, which I really enjoyed. I definitely align with that a lot. I feel like if I was in the games, I would try and be like that, I think also the fact that he technically basically killed Ollie and tricked Ollie, you know, he definitely manipulated him, which was impressive, but I was also kind of sad because that was probably the most depressing death for me with Ollie's death. But yeah, I mean, he just did whatever it took, and he did get to the finale, killing Sabiok, which was necessary so that they could continue the games, which was, you know, he was definitely focused on greed, but then at the end, when he realized he lost, he would rather, like, you know, he rather killed himself and told Gi-hoon to help his mother rather than him trying to betray Gi-hoon at the very last minute. So that just showed that, even, like, all the greed that has consumed him over, like, the past few days, all of that was made up, and he became, like, a good person at the end, which I really liked. Next, in that bottom left tier, we're gonna have Sabiok. So, you know, I liked her relationship with Gi-hoon. You know, obviously he treated her kind of like a daughter, and she finally opened up to him, which was nice. And then her relationship with Jaebyok, I thought that was also great. Just their whole Marvel scene together was pretty sweet. Even like people say like she may not do much, but she was pretty tough, you know. And the reason why she didn't trust anyone because she was from the north and she was trying to help her mother out and trying to help her mother escape. She's trying to help her brother, so she had a lot on her plate. And being or at least used to being a part of Deoksu's crew. She learned how to like fight and whatnot, and the fact that she brought her knife in and figured out like what the second game was from telling Songwoo, that was just all impressive, and I was really sad to see her character die because I thought she did a lot in season one, and I really liked that. These next four characters could probably be interchangeable. I think any given day I could say yes, this is my favorite character. But in fourth place, we're gonna have Hyunju. So she really just did it all. I think that in terms of like a character, she was pretty pure in her beliefs. You know, she didn't like just because her friends that she made voted X, she still wanted to have her own treatment. So she voted O, but then she voted X when she inevitably didn't need any more money, which was great. I think that the rebellion's like whole episode made her shine as she was able to take out a lot of the guards and use her special force training to her advantage. And then she was probably the saddest death of season three, in my opinion. Just the way that she died, and the fact that she was able to survive, and she could have survived, but she decided to go back for Junhee and Gumja. That just showed how like sweet and kind she was, kind of relating to Ollie, and all around she was just a great person. You know, when she held the baby in season three, and also like when she was in the bathroom with Junhee and Gumja, just the fact that realization that she would never be able to like get pregnant and have a baby on her own, I thought that was pretty emotional, and that just like added to the depth of her character. And while she was sweet, she also did show that she could be tough when needed to try and survive. So next we're gonna have Ali, third place. So I think that his personality is really what carries him. Just an overall sweet person, super kind. His kindness is the reason why he died, and again, super sad death for him and for like in my opinion, which is why he's also pretty high. You know, he was kind to Gi-hoon, tried to build a good relationship with Song-woo, and you know, overall, like just a great guy. There's not really much for me to say about him, just for the fact that like I don't know if he had that much personal like character development, but just the fact that he tried to go back into the games not because he wanted to, but really just because he wanted to protect his like wife and kid. I thought that was really sweet, and it showed why he wanted to join, despite probably not wanting to join had he not had his family members. Next, we're gonna have Gi-hoon. So second place definitely could be number one, probably number one for most people, but I thought he was a really sweet guy in season one, always trying to help out other people. And then once Sabiok died, he flipped a switch and suddenly locked in against Songwoo, which was impressive. And then even then, like he still wanted to leave with Songwoo without the money, but he ended up getting it. And then, you know, he was just a completely broken character. Every death broke him and whatnot, but season two, he did do a lot to try and help the people escape. I think that some of his methods, especially the rebellion, were kind of questionable, but still he had the right ideas and the right beliefs and whatnot. And then season three, sacrificing himself for the baby, you know, it just showed how kind he was. The fact that he didn't want to live in this world anymore. He was already broken, so at least he showed that there was some good in his life, and it really silenced the VIPs, which I think speaks volumes because they were yapping the entire time, and now they realized that there is still good people in this world, and it really made them like question life. And I think that just as a main character, he showed that you don't have to be perfect in order to be a main character. You can have flaws, you know. You don't have to be this heroic person, which he did still end up being, but he definitely didn't like. He wasn't like he didn't do all the right things in order to be that way. He just tried to be himself, which I really enjoyed. And last we have Myung-gi, probably another controversial, but he is my number one. So I just, again, he really relates to Song-woo, and what I liked. So yeah, literally all the reasons why I like Song-woo, I liked about Myung-gi. I think that the only reason why he is probably hated on, and I think it's Namgyo's fault when Namgyu told him that they should kill every blue player they see. It's like a switch inside him flipped because you could see that kind of zoomed up on his face. But if you rewatch season 3, you'll see, and that's when he started focusing on greed. But again, his relationship with Junhee, I again really liked. He did love her and he did try to protect her, and her death completely broke her, just like Gi-hun's. Like every death that he had to face broke him. And so at the end, he did use his manipulation tactics and his smarts to try and survive. And in the end, I mean, they could have won had 39 player 39 not jumped off. Gi-hun and the baby could have survived. But once player 39 killed himself, and then another like switch flipped inside him, and suddenly, you know, as audience members, we knew that Gi-hun would have easily sacrificed himself, but for Myung-gi, he definitely didn't know that. He thought that there's something going on with Gi-hun and Junhee, which is understandable, you know, because as a character, he didn't really connect with Gi-hun, so he knew he couldn't trust him. I think that yes, he didn't love the baby, and there were questionable decisions, but again, my opinion, I think that yeah, I just really liked him watching in season 2. Yeah, he was great, you know, and he did try and help Junhee. And then season 3, he definitely did have more to do, and it was really just a sad season overall. But he just showed what greed can do to people and how people's death can affect them. So that's my entire list. I'll be interested to see what you guys think about it, and if you have any questions, you can leave it in the comments. Feel free to also comment if you want to see any other videos. I would like to dive into more Squid Game content. I've got a lot of good ideas that I would like to show to you guys. So, but if you have any specific stuff, I'd gladly focus on those things first before focusing on other projects. But yeah, if you have any questions, again, feel free to let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.